We're ready to go. So good evening, everyone. My name is Virginia Harger, Chairperson of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission. Today's Wednesday, September 29th, 2021, and the special meeting of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission is being conducted entirely via Zoom. Is hereby called to order at 6:05 p.m. Protocol for today's meeting was previously reviewed by Corporation Counsel, who indicated to me it is compliant with the executive orders issued by the governor and fair for those watching from a remote location. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Griffey, whoa. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty,
liberty,
justice
justice
for all. Thank you, everyone. I'll start off with the roll call. Please verbally indicate that you are present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Commissioner Parkins?
Present.
Commissioner Amato?
Here.
Commissioner Ticky?
Present.
Myself, Commissioner Harger. Alternate Commissioner Laskos?
present.
Alternate Commissioner Usal? He did say that he was going to be joining us late. Mr. Rossetti, our administrator.
Present.
Mr. O'Neill, our assistant administrator and ZEO.
Here.
Ms. Vernassos, our recording secretary.
Sarah's present. She'll be right back in a second.
Okay. Just have her identify herself, please, when she's back in the room.
Will do.
Ms. Charbonneau, our stenographer.
Present.
Thank you. And for the record, Commissioner Radomski indicated to me he was unavailable for today's meeting. Alternate Commissioner Laskos, you're being seated for Commissioner Radomski.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Couple of points before continuing with today's agenda. This is the Commission's 47th meeting being done via a live streaming process. Mr. Rossetti will act as the Zoom meeting host. While commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting, the chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking to make sure we're not all speaking over each other and to make sure our recording secretary is clear as to who is speaking. Our two agenda items are public hearings. After each public hearing is announced, the applicant will present its proposal. During and after the presentation, the commission will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, which can be answered at that time or after the presentation. After the presentation has been completed and after the commission has finished answering questions, members of the public will be invited to address the commission about the proposal. Members of the public addressing the commission during today's public hearing need to be mindful of the following. After you're identified by Mr. Rossetti, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcript of the public hearing. All comments or questions are to be directed to the chair and to the chair only, not to the applicant and or his associates. No dialogue is permitted between the public and the applicant or any of the applicant's associates. All comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations and the merits of the application. All comments from the public should be new information and not a repeat of comments previously presented. Unless a member of the public has new comments to or questions of the chair, members of the public who wish to address the commission are asked to briefly indicate whether or not they are in agreement with the previous speaker and not repeat the same testimony. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. After all members of the public who participate today finish addressing the commission, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to public comments or questions. After the applicant and or associates have concluded its presentation, they've answered all questions and they've addressed all concerns from the commission and or public. And if no further information is needed by the commission, the chair will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. If the commission feels further information is needed, the chair will ask for a motion to keep the public hearing open. The public hearing closes, the chair will poll the commission for consensus on whether or not there is any reason not to vote on the application. And a reminder to the commission that once a public hearing has opened and until it is closed, commissioners are not permitted to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's presentation, or receive additional information from anyone. So we'll begin with application. First public hearing, application 21-21 Vista Apartments LLC, 1039 Howe Avenue. Commissioner Amato, would you please read the public hearing notice?
Sure. The Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Shelton, Connecticut hereby gives notice of a public hearing to be held virtually on Wednesday, September 29th at 6 o'clock via Zoom to consider the following. Initiation of application 21-21 Vista Apartments LLC at 1039 Howe Avenue, Assessors Map 146, Lot 19, on 1.93 acres in a CA3 zone for a 24,350 square foot residential unit with 16 units, I believe, with 36 on-site parking spaces by special exception. The plans titled Vista Apartments Phase 2, dated November 16th, 2020, were revised July 22, 2021, and were prepared by James Swift, PE, and Rose Tizo and Company. The property is generally bounded as follows: northerly by 11 Leavenworth Road, CA3 zone, easterly by Houstonic River, southerly by 1031 Howe Avenue, R1 zone, and westerly by City of Shelton open space.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
This application was accepted for review on August 14th, 2021, and a public hearing was scheduled by staff for today. Several documents were posted to the city's website, including site plans, property survey, floor layouts, building elevations, statement of use, storm drainage report, a traffic review, and comments from the Inland Wetlands Commission, the WPCA, and the owner of a local real estate office. Mr. Rossetti, were there any comments received from the public that we need to acknowledge for the record?
No.
No? Okay. And Mr. Rossetti, were any reports received from the city engineer and fire marshal?
Yes, both of them commented. Previously, this application came before the commission, which was withdrawn, and the city engineer had written up some comments at that time. All of the comments that he wrote for that initial proposal have been addressed for this proposal. And there is one minor change, which I'm sure the applicants will speak to. And then as for the fire marshal's office, he also submitted a letter later or beginning of this week and did not have any outstanding concerns. There was one question he had about a chain going across one of the access ways, which I'm also sure the applicant will speak to. But there were no outstanding concerns from either of those departments, just some few minor tweaks.
Okay, thank you very much. So who is here representing the applicant and wants to lead off?
Yes, good evening. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm attorney Stephen Bellis, and I represent the applicant Vista Apartments.
Thank you, Mr. Bellis. Attorney Bellis, go ahead.
Okay, thank you all. Good to see you. The bad news is I can't stay with you too long. I have a 7 o'clock zoning hearing up in Beacon Falls, which they do in person, so I have to drive there. But my plan is to give you some introductory remarks and then have Jim Swift, who's our engineer, go over some of the site development. And then we also have Patrick Rose, who can go over some of the architectural issues that you may have. Basically, you may remember this property has had a little bit of a tortured history. Vista Apartments did build a phase 1, and that had no issues whatsoever. But when he went to purchase the second portion of the land, you might remember that unfortunately, the lawyer for the seller took Mr. Blakeman's funds and didn't pay his client and didn't pay off the mortgage. So we had to go through the title insurance company. I participated with the FBI in having the lawyer arrested and jailed. We cleared the title, and we eventually were able to close on the land. So that's why this is called phase two.
And I can
It's-
imagine that took a little bit of time.
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah.
We then came back, if you may remember, and did a text amendment. And that text amendment allowed multifamily uses in the CA3 zone. And it got rid of all the regulations that were after section 33.5. So we had originally come in with the belief that we could build 28 units. And we started that application before this commission. And then there was a disagreement between the applicant and me and staff as to whether you still had to reduce the number of units based on wetlands and slopes. So I'm not going to bore you with that discussion. But what we decided to do, and that was a unanimous decision, is, well, why don't we come before your commission with the number of units that we all agree are acceptable in the regulations. So that would be 16 units. So there is no dispute with staff or the applicant that you can build 16 units. So that's why this was withdrawn and we brought it back for 16 units. So just as everyone knows, this is a special exception. It's not a PDD. So you've probably heard this before. You're acting in your administrative capacity, which means, hey, if it meets the zoning regulations, then it's a permitted use, and your hands are kind of tied as to approving it. Except you can always attach conditions to protect the public's health and safety under a special exception. So I think this is a straightforward application because we're not, staff or the applicant is not in disagreement on any of the regulations. So briefly, I can tell you that under section 2A, you're allowed to have multi-family apartments. If you look at the number of acres, which is 1.93, and you divide by the amount of units, it comes to 16. We've allocated 59 parking spaces, and we're using the same entrance and exit that we had in our phase one. Jim Swift will go over all those in much more detail. I do want to tell you that we meet the standards in the special exception, which is the site plan. There's under 33.4 that you have general considerations that you have to consider under any special exception. So what I've done is the first one has to do with the site plan, and I went over that we meet the number of units and parking. The second is the effect it would have on the comprehensive plan of development for the city. And when I looked at the conservation plan of development under 4-31, they do encourage multifamily development near downtown where there's a high concentration of residents and support the downtown businesses. I think this project is approximately a mile or so away from downtown. And as you already know, you approved phase one. So it does meet the plan of conservation of development. The third factor for you to decide is, can it handle the traffic? Is there a nice road in front of the project? We gave you a traffic study by, I think it was KMH. But I mean, it's kind of self-evident that Route 110 can handle the small volume of traffic that this apartment proposal would have during the peak loads. You have the report, and as Ginny said, Commissioner Harder said, it's submitted as an exhibit. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with that. Another consideration for this commission is the effect it will have on property values. There was an old multifamily, I think Commissioner Parkins was maybe familiar with it. She may have even lived there at one time, I'm not sure, renting. Unfortunately, the owner let it go into disrepair. And so as part of this project, that building has been demolished and removed. And in its place, hopefully, will be this nicer apartment building. Carrie and Guerrera has given a letter. They're a local realtor in town for many, many years, do one of the biggest real estate companies, along with Real Estate 2, in town. And they said it will not have any negative impact on property values in the area. So I think that should be good. The next thing that you consider is fire and police protection. As Alex has told us, the fire marshal has weighed in that the building will be sprinklered, and obviously it will meet the code for the fire. Police protection, I don't think that this is going to pose any police issues. There's already an apartment building there, and they haven't had any problems at that apartment building as far as police goes. So I don't see why they would end this particular phase 2. Water supply is the last one. Sewage disposal, drainage, and erosion. Those are your last considerations. So on the water supply, there is public water in 110. It's right in front of the building. So that's an easy lateral to bring in. On the sewage, we did go to the WPCA, and their approval letter is in your file dated 8/18. They had approved it for 28. I had them look at this project for the reduced amount for 16, and obviously they reapproved it. Same thing with wetlands. I did go back with Mr. Cook just to show him, the new project, and there should be a letter in your file, 8/26, where he said this has less impact than the 28, and obviously he likes it better. No, I shouldn't say better. It doesn't violate any of the wetlands regulations, and it is a permitted use. So you should also have my notice of the hearing. I sent residents within 200 feet a notice of this public hearing. I posted the sign and took a photo of it. That's also, I've submitted that to you as well. I did the certified mailings to 57 or 52 people, and that's in there. The statement of uses is in there, and I think I alluded to that a little earlier, where we are proposing the phase 2 in the CA3 zone, which is a permitted use. And it meets the number of units under Schedule B of our regulations, and it has more than enough parking spaces. I counted 59. If I'm wrong, Jim Swift can correct me. I'm usually not wrong, but it does happen.
Can you clarify about the notice said 36 spaces, so I assume the 59 is for both buildings? Are they sharing that?
Maybe I can let, if Jim could just chime in now and get that answered, Commissioner Motto. I'd like
Okay,
to.
sure.
I thought it was 35, Commissioner. I
Excuse
thought
me?
we had 35 spaces in phase 1.
Attorney Bellis, let me
Yeah.
just note for the record, Commissioner Usel, I see his identification is up on the screen. Commissioner Usel, you muted. Could you just, there you are. Just want to know for the record, did you just come into the meeting a couple seconds?
I've been here for about 15 minutes.
Oh, already. Okay. Sorry about that. So Commissioner Usel is noted as being in attendance. And before we go on, Ms. Vernassos, you are here. You're muted as well.
She stepped out, but she should be back shortly.
Okay, I am not comfortable with progressing unless she is in the building, but Mrs. Sarbano is.
We are recording though, but yes.
Okay,
Understood.
all right, fine.
Understood.
All right. Thank you. All right, Attorney Bellis, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
Not at all. I'll ask Jim to confirm, Jim Swift that is, but my understanding, Commissioner Amato, is that there were 35 spaces approved in phase 1, and that we are proposing an additional 59 parking spaces, but Mr. Swift can confirm that.
Actually, it's 36.
36 plus 35?
Yeah, the 59, Steve, I think is in your mind because that was the previous number for the higher
Then
unit count.
Yeah,
but
I stand corrected then, Commissioner Amato.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's fine. And how many units are in phase 1?
14 dwellings.
14 units.
14. So you have pretty good parking. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Good. Yeah.
yeah. I just screwed that up. I apologize.
That's-
Okay. So the last thing that the commission needs to consider. Let me just look at our the general considerations. Okay. So if you find that we're able to show you the general considerations under the special exception, then you can approve the application and make the findings. You don't need to go any further than we're stopping at what I'm calling 33.5. You just can make a finding that the requirements of this section have been met and that it's in harmony with the general purpose of these regulations, because we did the text amendment and you don't have to go into section 33.6, 33.7 or any of those. So it's a little easier for the commission in a CA3 zone than it is making a decision, say, in an RA3 zone. So I just wanted to point that out because it's probably the first one I bet that you had with the new text amendment. So you just kind of stop right at section 33.5. I've covered the legal requirements for the project, which I think I am telling you that the applicant has met. If you want to now turn to what I call the site plan, you should have in front of you the site plan, grading, soil erosion, landscape, the construction details, and then Pat Rose's architectural elevations. And I would suggest that the experts on that are Jim Swift and Pat Rose, and let them go over that with you in more detail, if that's okay with the commission.
Mhm.
So with that, I'm going to sign off, and but I'll ask you first if you have any questions of me on the legalities of this project.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any questions on the regulations or what we're doing?
I'll just need somebody to answer, for me personally, the parking, because looking at site plan, I don't think it's numbered here. Page 1 of 5, it shows the 35, 36 that are in the back of the existing building, and the gray area behind the block that says proposed apartments shows only so many lined in there. So where are the rest of the parking spaces? I don't see the lines there.
I'll let Jim Swift handle that if you don't
Right.
mind, Commissioner. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be the phase 1 portion of the project that has 14 dwellings. It has 35 spaces net. The spaces are sort of scattered throughout the site. There's a couple on each side of the entry driveways. There's 4 that we're modifying slightly in the right-hand in lane. There would be 4 of those. And then the rest are on the rear lot. And at the time, the commission allowed us to count the tandem spaces towards the back. I appreciate the lines are a little bit light delineating the existing spaces, but.
Okay, I see the 4 on that between the 2 buildings.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, there are 35 spaces there. There were slightly more, but we're modifying a little bit on the entry driveway, but we are still in compliance, I think, with the original application.
Jim, I just wanted to say one thing to the commission before I left. If this project were to be acted upon favorably, the applicant would remove that line between phase 1 and phase 2 for the 2 properties, and we would merge the properties. This would be one property with the called Vista Apartments with a phase 1 and phase 2. There would not be two separate parcels. I
Mhm,
hope that's clear.
mhm. Okay,
And that's to the benefit of the city. It's to the benefit of the Water Pollution Control Authority, because you want to have one lot with the apartments owned by the same owner, so that you don't have sale of one lot and a different owner of a second lot. So I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. There will be one owner. It's Vista Apartments LLC of both phase 1 and phase 2. Okay. I think that's important legally. So,
mhm.
all right, Jim, I don't know if you want to take over now and go through the site plan with them, and then we can reserve some time for Pat Rose to go over the architectural drawings.
Sure.
And I'm going to say goodnight to all of you and thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Bellis.
All right, good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't want to beat this plan too hard because,
Just
this
identify
is-
yourself for the record.
sure, Jim Swift, professional engineer, landscape architect. This plan is substantially the same as we've seen right from going back to when we originally changed the zone for the parcel, the recent applications that were withdrawn. Basically, we're not including any more driveways. We're not accessing out onto Leavenworth Road any more than previous. And in point of fact, for the existing lot that we are proposing phase 2 on, we're actually eliminating a driveway onto 110. And again, that's good for everybody. For the state will be happy with that. The city, I assume, would be happy with that. So it enters through the existing parking lot, comes around to a flattish parking lot towards the back of the building, and then extending around to the right side. And off the right side of that parking lot, we've done two things. One is we've enlarged the pavement area into in a way that allows for cars to have room to turn around in that lot, so that it's not a 3-point turn or anything like that. For passenger cars to get into that corner, they can turn around and they can come back out fairly easily. The provision was also made in an area that's similar to where the existing driveway was for the 3-family house. We're proposing to construct an emergency vehicle access so that, again, a fire truck can access the site through there. Ambulance can access the site through there. So in point of fact, the emergency vehicles actually have 3 different ways to get into the site. So I just wanted to point that out. That emergency vehicle access is not paved. It's called grasscrete. It's something that historically the fire department has accepted. It can support the weight of fire trucks. It will be gated. There was some discussion on that. The gate is something that, if you look at the note on sheet 1 of 5, that the construction type is, we're going to make it subject to review and approval of the fire marshal and the Department of Transportation, as they have an interest in it too. So those two agencies have an interest in that. And again, we and to stay on that sheet for a second, Steve did make the statement. I'm going to confirm that that Steve is correct, that we've met all the required performance standards such as setbacks, floor area ratios, and things like that. Those conditions are met. We're going to flip to the grading and utility plan. And again, the plan is substantially the same as we've seen in the previous applications and concepts. The slight grade through that lot does allow us to drop a floor from the facade that faces Leavenworth Road and Howe Avenue and the back of the site. So the apparent elevate, and Pat can go through this a little bit. The apparent elevation from Howe Avenue is 1 story less than towards the back. The drainage, again, this is all pretty much just for the record. The drainage design is fully designed with a full drainage report submitted to both inland wetlands, planning and zoning, and the city engineer. It meets all the design requirements of wetlands, city engineer, and city ordinance. So those 3 are the factors that are fairly important. And this is also important, WPCA has approved the concept for this, where we are using the existing line that was put in place for phase 1. And again, this is just for the record, that all the other utilities are available and sufficient for support of this building, the water supply, power, electric, so on and so forth. And again, this is just for the record, the erosion control plan has been designed in accordance with regulations and has also been approved by inland wetlands. And last but not least, and Alex, you may want to just flip to this drawing so that the commission can see. There's no really what I would call substantial design changes to plans that the commission has seen before. But I'd just like to, one more sheet. And the landscape includes 3 shade trees across the front of the site, the usual foundation plants along the building. And if you look over between Howe Avenue and the parking lot, you'll see higher evergreens. Those are actually arborvitaes, just to give you a good screen, good solid screen between the parking and the public street. And because this area of construction is so much smaller than the previous plans we've submitted, we've got, if you look to the right of that parking lot, you can sort of see in the background the old garage, the old pavement areas for the 3-unit house. And that pavement, of course, will be ripped up, and you can see that we'll be landscaping that with some ornamental trees, some evergreen trees. And you'll also notice that there is an existing hedge that's fully grown. It's healthy. It's very nice shape. So we'll be keeping that hedge as well. The only thing I would like to get into, I mean, Steve
Mr.
covered.
Swift?
Yeah.
Where's that hedge? Is it the bottom right corner? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's at the bottom right corner. You
Hard
can,
to
you
read.
just sort of barely see it. Yep.
Okay.
Steve went through the city engineer's letter, self-explanatory, the in the wetlands, the fire marshals. But I do have a recent report that just came in that Alex and Tony Panico had a chance to look at the plans, and they have some brief comments. And some of them are, I think they're worth addressing, so I'll do that. There was a comment, number 1, that consider reserving a couple of parking spaces in the rear for possible electric vehicle charging stations. I think that's going to be a requirement for any multifamily type of a development these days. I think the only question that remains to be answered is how many. But Mr. Blakeman is well aware that that's a up and coming thing. He's going to have to provide those kind of services to his tenants. So we'll be working out exactly where and how many of those charging stations need to be put in, and they will be put in. And we'd be glad to go over that with staff as far as once we identify where and how many we want to do. Number two, their second comment was rubbish enclosure is to be masonry. And it's noted on the site plan that it's masonry. It's also detailed in the detail sheet that it's masonry. There was a question as to why there was a chain link fence detail shown. It's not for the enclosure. It's for a short retaining wall that's actually just back behind the proposed masonry trash enclosure. So whenever we do a masonry wall that has any kind of a height to it, we always put a chain link fence on top of it, and that's the purpose of the detail. The third comment is to identify and reserve a parking space on the east side near the designated car turning area. And you can see that on the parking lot on the right side. You can see that circle, which delineates a car turning radius. Tony would like to see, Tony and Alex would like to see maybe one of those spaces designated, striped as not a parking space, so that when we get small single unit vehicles in there, that they have room to make a 3-point turn. We do not object to that. The commission can certainly make that a requirement if they feel it's necessary. I didn't show that because of the primary reason is that any single unit type of a vehicle really doesn't need to go past the primary access point to the building on the upper parking lot area. And what we would see small trucks of that nature doing is getting to that point and then backing back out into the existing parking lot and either using the handicap spaces or the one-way in driving lane and making his 3-point there to get out. So we think there's provision and of course the trash truck, if you look at our proposed trash area, that proposed trash area is intentionally angled slightly. That trash truck can come in, make his pickup, back up, and then drive out through the existing parking lot. But again, so
what's the number of the page that's up on the screen?
Page number 1 of 5.
Page 1, number 1 of 5. I don't know. The one that I printed out from the website did not have all that parking detail on it. Sheet 1 of 5 should also show that a call out for a masonry trash enclosure. What's the date on that one? I have July 22nd, 2021.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But in any case, so I feel the single unit truck has been addressed. But again, it's for the commission to discuss and to consider Alex's and Tony's recommendation, and we have no objection to a condition of approval requiring that be done.
Is that single unit vehicle, are you talking about like an Amazon delivery truck?
I think that's what they're getting at.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that term either.
Okay.
Would that also be applicable to moving vans as is providing like a U-Haul, large U-Haul to come in and move residents?
Yeah, that would also, well, yes.
So where is the elevator for that particular event?
Again, straight through that door that's on the north side of the, or I shouldn't say north, the upper side of the parking lot.
So
So you can
where
see
would,
on the plan, that's up on the screen now, the vestibule directly above the elevator. That's relates to our parking lot that is in the vicinity of the handicap spaces, the upper flatter lot.
so where would you allow that loading zone to take place?
Well, I think they're gonna have to come in, unload as expeditiously as possible.
Well,
And then
you
move the
do have to
truck.
consider that because it could be quite a hassle for a moving van, not a moving van, but a U-Haul truck for people
Mhm.
moving themselves in to have a location to unload.
Mhm.
Right, and they're gonna have to unload in the driving aisle.
Jim, one thought that Tony and I had, we thought it might be a little overzealous and it might take a little more work, but I'll just throw it out there because it seems like this might be a topic. It seemed like the interior spaces might be able to be flipped around, looking at this office and this storage area. Again, I don't know exactly how the layout is, but if these two are, I assume that packages are going to be dropped off probably in the office area. This might also have a mail room of some sort.
Mhm.
If that was flipped to this side of the building, would there be able to be a kind of striped area here for drop off and delivery / loading and unloading? Because this access way looks like it's, I forget what we measured, but
Good enough.
about 22 feet wide. And you
Yeah,
could
that's correct.
have a truck, kind of pulled over to the side here and still allow access for vehicles to go past and unload, pull the UPS truck over, et cetera, without hindering movement. That was just one idea.
Right. What happens is that sidewalk and entry to the building that you see by the one-way sign that your cursor is nearly on, that is entering the building at a half level.
Yep.
It's entering at a stairway that has no direct access to the elevator.
Oh, that's right. Okay, because that's down. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm guessing that pitch is too steep for a ramp.
Yes. Yeah. Too steep for the ramp. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a concern. As someone who's very experienced in moving my daughter in and out of apartments in Raleigh, that could become an issue with moving vans having access to the elevator without blocking no loading zones and or other parking areas.
Right. Well, in a situation where the moving van comes on a Saturday or a Sunday when we can expect the parking lot to be rather full,
Right.
then perhaps we should consider Tony and Alex's suggestion. And if you look, how can I describe this? If you see the call out wood guide rail over to the upper right, you can see that there's a section of driveway with no parking spaces on either side of it. A small moving van or something of that sort could actually park right along that curb and have very good access through that sidewalk into the elevator.
Okay. Yeah, as long as that's made known to new renters, that would be fine too.
Yeah, chances are they're going to want to get close to the building as possible, so they may park on the other side of the sidewalk from the handicap spaces.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much foresight you have as you're driving in.
Right.
Not to overthink this too much, but if a moving van comes in and makes his turn to the right into the existing parking space and then backs up, then he can handily put his truck in the handicap spaces, which frequently are not occupied. But again, you know, we're
Yeah, just
projecting-
something to consider as you're developing this layout.
Yeah.
Because you
Um,
really shouldn't use a handicap spot for a moving van.
No.
Well, you can't assume that.
Right. I mean, if there's a spot available in the proposed parking space, they can pull in, but as you suggested, if there's something along the guardrail where they could park the truck and, you know,
Yeah.
walk the hand carts over, then that's fine as well. So,
Yeah, and that's a relatively flat pavement area, so that would work
Right.
pretty well.
and it's not that far.
Can't the parking lot above the car turning radius circle to the right, can't that, where the, in faint letters, you see the word garage, can't that
Yeah.
be extended a little bit more?
Yeah. We omitted we used to need a retaining wall all along where the where the wood guide rail
Guardrail is, yeah.
But we were able to get rid of that because we need so few parking spaces. When Tony and Alex point out that, you know, we can block off one of those handicap spaces, not handicap space, I'm sorry. One of those parking spaces for to let a truck make a 3-point turn. There's plenty of room where to push that entire parking lot towards the garage.
Mhm.
There's room to add another parking space or so
Mhm.
in an upward direction from, you know,
Mhm.
so we can make those kinds of accommodations without losing parking spaces that we say we have.
Mhm.
The garage is being removed, correct?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Just out of curiosity, how it had the moving in and out from the first building handled?
I guess I'll leave that one to Jim,
Mhm.
if he's on the line. I mean,
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Mr. Blakeman, yes.
Yes, Jim Blakeman. You know, most of the times they came in the back area of the building,
Mhm.
right straight in. And they just parked right in the middle. It was wide enough, the main driveway in the back, cars could still pass by, and they would just walk straight into the elevator right inside there.
Mhm. Okay,
On the lower level in the back.
all right.
I think you could probably do the same thing near those handicap spots and still pass by with a car and have access straight into the elevator. That's my opinion, but it's your discretion what you guys want us to do.
Mhm. Okay. Well, can the sidewalk be moved closer to the building? For any reason?
and this, I don't follow,
Where the two handicap spaces are,
correct?
you've got a speckled area.
Mhm.
Can that be moved closer to the building? Would that help?
Yeah, it could. I mean, it encroaches on the
Landscaping.
landscaping a bit.
Mhm.
Right now I have it as a 5-foot walk. I mean, you know, we could do a little better, I suppose.
What's that area past between the 5-foot walk and the building? How big is that?
It's 10 feet.
Okay. All right, well, you've got options, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else do you have from Mr. Panico's list?
Yep. Number 4 is, can the transformer in front of the area be landscaped to minimize its visual impact? Absolutely. You know, the UI doesn't generally like shrubs, but we we sneak some decorative grasses in there that get up 4 or 5 feet and then don't cut them down in the winter. So absolutely, we can hide those transformers.
This is the only place the transformer can be located?
It is. There's restrictions on transformers.
Mhm.
First of all, they need to be at least 5 feet from a building, but more importantly, they need to be at least 15 feet from any window.
Mhm.
So you can kind of look around the building and see, and measure 15 feet off the building in all those areas.
Mhm.
And you can see there's not really any other place with 15 feet.
Where's the
and
transformer
it
for the
also-
first building?
I'm sorry?
Where was the transformer located
Yeah.
for the first building?
Yeah, we were forced to put that one across the pavement area because, again, there was no place adjacent to the building where we could get it 15 feet away from windows. There's other places to put the transformer, but they all
Mhm.
are in the front of the building.
Okay. So you're referring to what's identified as electric box?
Yes,
That's what services the first building.
that's what services the
Okay.
first building. That's correct.
Okay. All right, next one.
Can I just say,
Um,
I personally think that putting plants around those boxes just draws attention to them, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. But again, we can do some other things. We can try and move them closer to each other, things
So
like
is
that.
is the utility company making you put bollards up around them?
You can see that there's bollards along the existing transformer because it's close to a driveway.
Hmm.
Our proposed transformer is not close to vehicular traffic.
Okay.
So at least on that one, we don't have to put the ugly bollards on.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The remaining comments are architectural, so I'll let Pat go with those. And
Not even number 5?
number 5 is yeah. If Pat is
Okay.
I don't see Pat on the line. He
was there.
Oh, there he is.
Pat Rose, Rose T-Zone Company, architect on the project. Alex, do you want me to share my screen? I can do that if you want.
Whatever works for you.
Okay, I'll share my screen then. It'll be easier. So you don't gotta put the arrow in the right spot. It's a pain.
It's a
Okay.
big task putting the arrow in the right spot.
Everybody see the architectural floor plan that's on the screen?
Yes.
This is the first floor to the new 16-unit building. At the top of the sheet is the entrance off of the drive aisle, which is facing the river. So you come in and there's an elevator directly in front of you. You have mail on either side as you come in. I've made a mistake in as much as this is to be the fitness where it says office and the fitness is to be the office. They'd be switched because the fitness wants to have windows and it also is larger and it also has this access off a patio to a mechanical space that needs to condition that fitness area. So that's supposed to be fitness. That's my error. What else we have on this floor are 2 one-bedroom plus office units,
Mm-hmm.
1,000 square feet each. And then the tenant storage in the rear with the electrical and sprinkler in this corner because it's closest to the street over here, closest to the electrical transformer. This area, one of the reasons we can't really switch it is this is pretty much buried. And that's the reason those functions are there. And that we can, with a retaining wall, we can create visual, light and air to this fitness space on that first floor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Second, typical floor for second and third floors. Go up the elevator, stairs on either end. You have 4 one-bedrooms with office in the corners. These are a little larger than these. And then you have this 1-bedroom unit. It's 764 square feet in behind the elevator. So on the second and third floors, you have a 1-bedroom unit, and then you have 4 one-bedrooms plus office on the corner. So the breakdown of the units that you end up with in the building are 2 one-bedroom units
Mhm.
bedrooms, and then 14 one-bedrooms with office.
Mhm.
One bedroom is the 764 square feet, and the one bedrooms plus office range from 1,067 to 1,200 square feet. And I'll show you those on the next plan, the bigger ones. On the 4th floor, we have 4 one-bedrooms plus office. And they're range from 1,205 to 1,184, because it has an elevator taking some space out of it. All of the units in the building have their own washer dryers. All of them, except for the one bedrooms on the 2nd and 3rd floor, have their own decks with mechanical rooms. Each one has a deck. So it's a similar, these are bigger units than we built over on the Old Bridgeport Avenue, but felt that the location and some of the views and things like that, we thought that the bigger units would be marketable in this area. Exterior of the building, this being labeled as rear elevation is what you see as you drive up to the building, as you're in the parking lot. 4 stories in height that faces the river, main entrance, and then units on either side with the balconies. What we've done on the elevation is to, on the first this lower level, is to have stone around that entryway, and then some stone on the base, and then siding as you go up the 4 floors. In the gable,
It's just,
we've
Rose,
got shakes.
you're garbled.
And then in the center, I'm garbled. Okay.
Yeah.
What we've done in the
think it's-
center here is my internet connection is unstable. Okay.
Yeah, mine is as well. So I think it's just an internet issue.
Okay.
The center of the building, we have vertical board and batten siding, which is similar to what's used on the Vista Phase 1 front elevation, has that similar. So we're trying to tie that in a little bit with the Phase 1 building. Plus, we're using materials that we've used over on the Old Bridgeport Avenue building. The right side elevation also faces the parking lot, which is 4 stories tall, has an entryway with stone to that stairway with windows in the stairway. And then you've got the retaining wall that steps up as we go towards Howe Avenue. On the left side elevation, you've got a step up, and it's a 3-story elevation on this end, with these being the electric room, sprinkler room down in this corner. Next elevation,
Is there access to the elevator? Is there access to the elevator on all elevations?
On there, the real access to the elevator is through the front door
Right.
on the rear of the building, but you can
Yep.
get there from this, you can walk through the stairway and get to the elevator.
Okay,
On this side, the left side, which is really an exit, but you could go in here, go up the stairs and get to the elevator.
okay, thank you.
The only elevation you don't have access is the front elevation off of Howe Avenue, because it's something that it doesn't lend itself to having an entrance, really.
Right,
Because
right.
it doesn't make sense. Because
Right.
it doesn't have parking near it. The parking is on the other sides. So what we've done is we've gone to the 3-story elevation. This is the line of the retaining wall that's, you're not seeing this. So it really appears as a 3-story elevation off of Howe Avenue. Same treatment for the building that we're using, siding for these levels, shakes up in the gable, and then a vertical board and batten for the center section. One of the comments from Tony and Alex was, how can we dress up this elevation a little better on Howe Avenue?
Mhm.
One of our suggestions would be to extend this band across this elevation also, and put stone in this area, similar to the way the rear elevation is. So they sort of match each other. And I think that we could do, it could be a condition of approval. It's not an issue. We discussed it ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah, the building
Yeah,
looks
no.
backwards otherwise.
Well, yeah, it's the siding of the building, and you're on the lower level where all the parking is, where the 4 stories are as an entry point. But I think that will help balance it off as it's seen from Howe Avenue. The only other question that Tony had brought up was the affordable units that are shown on the second floor. It says second floor only accessible. I mean, not affordable, the accessible units.
Yeah.
There are 2 accessible units in the building. One is the second floor of this 1-bedroom unit. And the next one is this 4th floor unit of the 1-bedroom and office. That's the reason.
You're
The
talking
second
wider
floor-
doorways? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, wider doorways, a little bit different layout in the kitchens,
Mhm,
way the bathrooms are set up with grab bars and things like that.
mhm.
But those are the reason that it says second floor only. The
Mhm.
3rd floor is not an accessible unit,
Right.
but all the units are adaptable because it's served by an elevator.
Adaptable or accessible?
2 different things.
Yeah.
Adaptable means it could become an accessible unit in the future if necessary.
Oh, okay.
Accessible is completely accessible.
Mhm. Okay.
So that is my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Rose?
The word affordable was mentioned, I know, in error, but
I'm
I was
sorry.
wondering, are any, no, that's okay. Is there any plans for any of these units that would be workforce housing or affordable housing?
I'll let Mr. Blakeman answer that, but I believe the answer is no.
Jim Blakeman, the applicant. We've reduced the number so much. Alex and I spoke a little bit about this before. And it's very difficult financially to actually make it work on this. If we had gotten the original plan, I think we could have got away with a couple units to go towards it. And I know you guys don't really pay much attention to the financial part of it. On our end, we do, obviously. But it doesn't really work for us.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rose, can you go back to the page A103?
Yes,
All right. The bedroom counts again, you got 4 1-bedroom plus in the 4 corners, right?
correct.
Okay. And the ones in the middle, those are 4 1-bedrooms.
No. This is a unit. This whole thing right here is a
Oh, okay.
unit.
That's
So
where
the bedroom, you see the bedroom is larger.
Got it, got
Got
it.
a walk-in closet, bigger bath.
Okay. All right.
It's
There's
only
only
on the 2nd and 3rd floors that middle piece is a 1-bedroom unit. The
okay.
4th floor, they're larger.
So there are no regular 4 bedrooms. There are 4-bedroom pluses on the 4th floor.
Correct.
Okay. So
The 2nd and 3rd floor have the 1-bedrooms.
okay, got it. Okay. Okie dokie. That's all my questions. Anybody else?
My only concern at the original proposal was the access to this, the double access to this, the emergency access. So do you plan to gate it? Is that the plan? Is it going to be gated or chained, or what, how is the emergency access going to be provided?
Jim Swift for the record. Yes, it is definitely without question going to be gated.
Okay.
Otherwise it's going to be used all the time. And again, if you go back to the first sheet, there's 2 parties that are going to tell us what kind of gate they're going to require. One is the fire marshal, and the other one is Connecticut DOT. So it is definitely going to be gated, and those 2 parties are going to participate in where, how long, et cetera.
So if I recall correctly, on the original proposal, I could be mistaken, but I believe the fire marshal was against a gate being there. And I only raised this point because as Attorney Bellis inferred, I did actually live at that multifamily house for several years, many years, actually, when I first moved to Shelton. And it's a beautiful location to live. It really is. But it was also a very dangerous curve as you come around. So I very much appreciate the fact that there will only be one entrance at that location, which I think will provide much more safety than having the two. But I'm hoping that the fire marshal or whoever, as I recall, indicated that a gate wasn't the proper method of proceeding there. I'm just hoping that there will be a gate rather than allowing residents to enter and exit there.
Certainly the authority and the concern of the fire marshal speaks for itself. But I think in this particular case, Connecticut DOT is very, very concerned about the sight lines around those corners. And that's the issue. That's the main issue.
Okay.
I think they're likely to say that, if you don't put a gate on that, it's going to get used by cars, and that's that they probably won't accept that. And I would think,
Rose, can I just ask, could one of you put up sheet 1 of 5? The site plan?
I don't have the site plans in my. I have to
Okay.
find them to put them up. Alex, I'll relinquish, stop sharing, and maybe you could put it up.
Because the question I have is, right now, where are the driveways for the existing apartment? There's a double lane on the left?
yeah. Alex, if you look on that, in that area, you'll see a little note that says fill existing curb cut with bituminous curb. And it's just to the right of the call out that says that the actual proposed emergency vehicle access. So you can see the driveway, the existing driveway is to the right. Yep, there it is.
That's not to the existing first phase. I'm talking about the first phase of the existing apartment building. Right now you're showing.
Right where he's circling.
Yeah, to the left. That's the driveway going in and out. On to the right side of the existing apartment, is there a driveway right now?
Yes.
Okay. So there are
It's
two-
one way in. Yes.
One way in, and the other one is one way in and out. So after the proposed apartment is built, that gray shaded area to the right of the proposed apartment is what's being proposed as the emergency access with that flush pavement and kind of feature.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
That will be grass, correct, Jim?
I'm sorry.
That'll be grassed area.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's called Grasscrete. It's the honeycomb plastic thing that you see. You fill it with
Mhm.
topsoil and you can mow over it, and it
Mhm.
looks pretty decent.
Yeah, which is used in a number of places in town.
Yep, absolutely.
That was my only concern, and I think it's been satisfied. So thank you.
Mhm.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Just for my own edification, what part of this project is of special concern to inland wetlands? Is it because it borders the river? Is that what they're?
The only reason they had jurisdiction is because at one time we were within the 50-foot upland review area of that water course that runs along the right side of the property. The only remaining reason that they have jurisdiction is we're creating a new stormwater discharge into the water course that runs along the right side of our of the property. So those any obviously filling of wetlands is they have jurisdiction. Any activities within the 50-foot upland review area, they can request, they can claim jurisdiction. And any new stormwater discharge direct to a wetlands, pond, or water course, they have jurisdiction.
So it's this brook
And-
on the
and-
right that's being that's untouched, it looks like. That's not
Mhm.
coming into construction at all.
No.
I'm sorry, the
The
hillside?
brook, the brook on the right-hand side of this project.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. I drove by there today, I think, and I see, it's being cleared. So I'm assuming you want to get the foundation in before the snows fly.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah,
We just recently demoed the house. That's why the equipment is there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That
Anyone
park
else?
is quite a ways from that parking area as well, so.
Yeah.
It's quite lower than the impervious surface.
Mhm. Okay, anybody else? All right, Mr. Rossetti, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the commission on this application?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone from the public that would wish to address the commission on this application? If you are intending to do so, please raise your hand. Okay, last call from members of the public to indicate they'd like to address the commission on this application by raising their hand. Okay, so there's no one that's done that, and if there are no other further comments, questions, or concerns for the applicant, is there a motion to close the public or continue the public hearing for application 2121?
Why are we continuing, Carolyn?
Well, I just always give people the option. Is there a motion
Oh,
to either
okay.
continue, close or continue?
Thank you.
Okay.
No.
So. is
We
anyone-
could move on this, can't we? On
Yes,
this?
yes, we can.
Yeah.
So I just always give that option. All
I'll
right,
make a
so-
motion to close the public hearing.
All right, there's a motion to close the public hearing from Commissioner Laskos. Is there a second?
There's
I
a
will
second.
second that.
Okay, I heard two people. Who wants it?
Go ahead, Elaine.
Oh, that was Ruth.
Oh,
It was
That was
Ruth.
Ruth.
Go ahead, Charlie.
there is a saying, but I'm not going to say it. All right,
Take
Commissioner.
take your pick, Jenny.
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Kelly, there's a second. And I'll do a roll call on the motion to close the public hearing for application 2121 from Commissioner Laskos, seconded by Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, does the commission feel it's received sufficient information to act on this application at this time?
I
I
do.
don't think so. Yeah,
I do.
I do.
Okay,
Yes.
anyone opposed to moving forward? All right, so is there an application, I'm sorry, is there a motion for application 2121?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion to approve from Commissioner Motto. Is there
I
a
will-
second?
Commissioner Parkins will second.
Okay, Commissioner Parkins seconding, thank you. On the motion to approve from Commissioner Motto, seconded by Commissioner Parkins, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion to approve has passed by a vote of 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is application 21-10 Riverside Retail Center LLC. And 131 Canal Street, Assessors Map 130, Lot 2. Petition for modification of special exception, application number 15-17 in the Riverfront RFD District Zone. This proposed modification intends to convert second floor office space in an existing two-story retail commercial building into 8 apartments with on-site parking. Plans are titled Riverside Commercial Center, and they were prepared by Getz Associates, Inc. and Primrose Companies. Just a little bit of historical reminder. Since the opening of the public hearing, 2 documents were posted to the city's website on August 13th, namely a site plan indicating parking and an additional floor plan of the second floor. The application was accepted for review on May 26th. Public hearing opened July 21st. When we heard the applicant's proposal to convert office space on the second floor to the 8 residential units with on-site parking, questions were presented by the commission about the adequacy of parking, handicap accessibility to the second floor, whether or not any units were going to be set aside as affordable units. Only one member of the public spoke, expressing traffic concerns. The chair requested a site plan showing the parking designated for Riverside Commercial and for the lofts from the applicant, the hours of operation for the restaurant, documentation where adaptive reuse does not require handicap access to the second floor, and comments from the traffic authority. At the end of the applicant's presentation and comments from the commission voted to continue the public hearing. Continuation of the public hearing was August 17th. The applicant commented on the restaurant hours and adaptive reuse. Staff relayed comments that the traffic authority would be monitoring the area and would bring any necessary concerns to the staff. And we again voted to continue the public hearing. Mr. Rossetti, were any additional comments received from the public after the continuation of the public hearing on August 17th?
No, there were not.
Okay. Mr. Rossetti, did staff ever receive the explanation that I requested from the applicant of the adaptive reuse that was referenced by him? When I read back into the minutes, there was a comment that some kind of document was going to be submitted. I know that the applicant did comment on adaptive reuse, but was there anything ever in writing submitted?
Nothing that pops to mind, but I will look into that while the commission proceeds.
Okay. One of the things that I'm concerned about is that in looking up what the explanation of adaptive reuse is that it's for existing buildings that are being renovated, rehabilitated. This is a new build. So that needs to be definitely clarified for myself as to, does that adaptive reuse really apply in the situation? I don't see anything that says it does. So therefore that handicap access is of further concern for me. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? And staff will advise you on the website, the city website was the parking, a colorized version of the parking. Who is going to go over that?
Josh will.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill, you've got the floor. Or is that going to be a screen share?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Just give me 1 second to pull it up.
Sure.
Okay, can everybody see this?
Yeah, why don't you enlarge it a bit?
All right.
Got stuff on the side there, the tools column. Maybe you could X that out.
Yep. How's that? A little better?
Oh, that's better. Yeah, can you raise it up on the screen?
How's that?
Okay.
Yeah, so as you can see, Alex and I
pan
took some
up a
time.
little bit.
Up?
Yeah, that's it.
Alex and I took some time this week to practice our coloring skills. So let's start with the Riverside commercial. So for the commercial space, which is 10,000 square feet, the RFD requirement is 250 square feet of space, of commercial space per 1 parking spot. That comes out to 40 spaces. So those are highlighted in blue. You can see a portion of this 15 spaces here along the front of the building, 18 spaces up along where the river is, and then an additional 3 across from that. And then 8 of these 10 spaces here on the upper side of the commercial building. That gets you 40 spaces for the commercial. But one thing to be aware of is that part of the RFD regulations allows for half of the required residential spaces, that would be for the potential 8 apartments, can be shared with the commercial use. So being that there's 6 or 8 units of apartments, 2 spaces per unit, that gives you 16 spaces that are required for the apartments on the second floor. And those are highlighted in pink. So you have 10 spaces here, plus the 2 here, that gives you 12. 13, 14, 15, 16 are these 4 spaces here. And these are just for illustrative purposes. The spaces can be laid out, however you want it, really. But this is just to make sure the math adds up. So this dual colored blue and pink section are the 8 shared spaces that are allowed by the RFD regulations. So if you take those 8 spaces away from the 40 that are required, it's really 32 spaces for the commercial, because like I said, 8 of them are shared with the residential use. And so that, if you take all the pink and the blue spaces out, that leaves you with these 25 spaces here, 14 plus 11 in the middle here, this middle aisle, and plus these spaces that have already been designated for the lofts, which is the 47 unit or 46 unit apartment complex across the Riverside Drive there. So that's basically how the math works out with the parking. So there is, enough space for both the residential and the commercial use on site here for the commercial building.
So this meets the requirements of the RFD.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Amato, were you speaking up?
No, I'm just
No. Okay.
trying to
Was-
follow that math, but I know we're
Yeah.
talking about a restaurant and
Mhm.
residents and restaurant people are going to be there at the same time. So even though the RFD, technically it meets, I don't think the regs probably had envisioned a restaurant use to
Yeah,
share
the
parking with residents.
The RFD regulations in terms of parking don't spell out the difference between, say it's a doctor's office or versus a restaurant or a barber shop.
Right.
It's just commercial space. But it does mention that there's, an abundance, I guess you'd say, of municipal parking within the general vicinity. Either across the street, the Conti lot, the lot next to the pierogi restaurant. So the RFD does allow for, some of those spaces to be used in terms of the municipal lots, instead of, on-site parking.
Yeah. No, I agree with Commissioner Amato. I think that this was a building that was presented to us as having daytime use and nighttime use, and the daytime use would be offices, and they would not be opened at night, and the nighttime use for the restaurant would assume those spaces. So anybody?
Commissioner
Go
Tick-
ahead.
Josh, if you said this, if you just repeat, how are the spaces going to be marked? Are they going to be marked or designated in some way for residents, and the same for the spots that would be available for the commercial space?
Yeah, so they can be. There's these green circles here are spaces that, so we just, color coded it based on how it laid out. It's not necessarily which spaces are specific for what. We just kind of came up to what numbers each use needed in terms of parking spaces. But in this lot, these 25 spaces here, or 25 spaces in general in this lot, should be designated for the loft apartments across Riverside Drive. And then the remaining spaces will accommodate for the commercial and residential use for this building where the new restaurant is. But, we just said that, these residential spaces are, better off, I guess, being closer to the building. But it's, any space could really be designated for whatever use. We just tried to make sure that the numbers matched up with what the
Jess,
regulations are.
again, are they going to be marked? You have numbers on the other ones over here, but there's nothing with the blue or the pink. So are they going to be designated? You're going to have a designated parking space for a tenant? Or no?
If it's shared parking,
How
it
can
doesn't.
you?
The shared parking, yeah, is a little bit difficult to mark, but the
It's gonna be like
remainder of the,
impossible.
is it
Well, it would
possible?
be
I'm sure
impossible,
the
but-
applicant can address whether or not they're gonna mark each individual residential space that's not shared to the residential apartments. And then these green spaces, like I said, would be for across the street for that apartment building.
Well, what I'm
Those
getting
guys
at
need to
is
be
that
designated.
when the other building is built, if there's a guest, they could park over in the blue and the pink, and the people in the top of the residential area, of the commercial area, wouldn't have a place to park. Am
Yeah,
I correct?
I see your point.
Yeah,
Um,
if there's assigned parking or if they're marked somehow and one of the upstairs residents has always used the third space from the left and they come home one night and they see that some other car is there. Oh, that's the shared space. So they have to drive around and figure out where the heck they're gonna park. You know, it's,
Yeah, I know that, so the parking spots for the lofts across the street are all numbered.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming, they can number the residential spaces that aren't shared, and maybe mark, the rest of the spaces as, commercial use only. So visitors, I guess, would have to park in a municipal lot. But
Can I jump in or?
What was that?
Mr. Getz is here.
I just wanted to add that, that's been normal whereby what we've done is we assign one space to every apartment.
Mhm.
That's, pretty common. The rest are floating, meaning that each apartment has, if you look at what we did at the lofts, there's an assignment of one parking space per apartment.
Mhm.
The rest is, basically where they are able to find a space. That would be the same thing for the 8 apartments. The number of, or the parking spaces that are, sort of the dual color, there would be 8 spaces there assigned, they would be numbered, and they would be designated for the apartments. The rest would just be, as said, wherever they can find a space. And, again, I want to remind the commission that, the way this, this project was developed, some of you that were on the commission at the time recall, there was a commitment by the city that overflow parking would be at the Chromium, site. It's for the record. Well, in this particular case now, it's going to have to be at the Conti lot, which is, across the street. So I don't think that, again, it's always difficult to get people to, to realize that, there's a certain way that they have to deal with things. But again, if you go to the Conti lot at any time of the day or night, you'll find that, it's basically empty, with the exception of when you have, the occasions in at the park. So I again, it's we would assign similar to the lofts, each space would, for the apartments would be assigned. When it comes to the issue of the accessibility, and I think maybe I used the wrong terminology with adaptive reuse, since we do so much adaptive reuse. The Birmingham was an adaptive reuse building.
Right.
Adaptive reuse, as Chair has indicated, it relates to buildings that are existing.
Mhm.
This building, even though new, is an existing building. It was built, 3-4 years ago for a specific purpose. The use is, at the time, the purpose, the way it was designed, did not require handicap accessibility to the second floor, so no provisions were made to it. The change, and I did, and again, I did send and submitted sections of the code back, I think it was 2 hearings ago. But there is sections of the both international code and Connecticut Building Code that addresses conversion or, this type of situation where if you're unable to accommodate accessibility, then, there's nothing that you can do about it. In here, there is really no way to provide handicap accessibility to the second floor for any type of use. So, as I said, I did submit, there is code compliance or code sections that allow for what we're doing. And I did submit that, some time back, to the commission.
Mr. Rossetti, do you have any information about that? Oops, sorry.
So the applicant did, there's no definition for adaptive reuse, but yes, the applicant did submit a section of the building code that states when there's a change of occupancy in a building, what has to comply with ADA access regulations. And the highlighted text from the applicant states, quote, where it is technically infeasible to comply with the new construction standards for any of these requirements for a change of group or occupancy, the above items shall conform to the requirements to the maximum extent technically feasible. Those items include 1 accessible building entrance, 1 accessible route from a building entrance, signage to comply, accessible parking, an accessible loading zone, an accessible route connecting the parking to the loading zone, and then not less than 20% of the joint. And then it goes into some residential uses that I do not apply because he does not have enough.
Mm-hmm. But this building has never been occupied.
Correct.
So shouldn't there be handicap access for a building that has never been occupied? Or is it the other way around? Because it was never occupied, we have to take it the way it was built. If it had been occupied and then it had a change in use from commercial to residential, that's when the elevator would have been required.
No, I don't. Again, look, that's what we specialize in, is design, development, construction. I can always tell you that the building was constructed and it's unfeasible because the code requires the feasibility or technical feasibility, and it's technically unfeasible at this time to provide a handicap accessibility to the second floor. The building exists. It may be a new building. It may have never been, occupied. And again, it could be sitting for another, 5 years. But it's still unfeasible, technically unfeasible to provide accessibility to the apartments. And again, it's in many cases where you have buildings or, and we do this all the time, where you have small number of apartments in a building. You don't put an elevator in, you put a raise or a ranch unit on the first floor. So that because under the regulations, even though the regulations keep on changing, but it used to be that, 10% of the units need to be accessible, the balance adaptable, and you would always provide a ranch unit on the ground floor to accommodate that. Again, the buildings exist, it's unfeasible, technically unfeasible, which is what the code stipulates, to make the second floor handicap accessible.
Madam Chairman,
Sure, Commissioner Kelly, go ahead.
I just have one question. What was the building built for? Residential or commercial?
Initially commercial.
So it was approved to have offices upstairs without an elevator initially, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
which seems,
Well, you couldn't have offices upstairs without an elevator. I mean, that's,
well, that's what it is. That's the current,
no,
You-
I'm just saying that, it's not feasible to do it that way.
but that's what was done.
Right.
No, the original design, basically you had two offices, each with its own entryway, and each office was less than 3,000 square feet, and therefore you didn't need handicap accessibility.
This is
So
on the
that was-
second level.
Right, so that was the code that existed when, the permits were issued. And keep in mind that this, all of these went up to the state building official because of the length of time it took for us to go through the process to obtain permits, and the state building official signed off on both the lofts, this one, and also 223 Canal at the same time. So this was all designed and built, in I forget the year, but it was in a different code that exists today. Because you keep in mind that the codes keep on changing. The current codes are different than when they existed when these buildings were built.
Agreed.
Well, sir, but it's hindsight, but commercial space without an elevator on the second floor seems not desirable.
Or unproductive.
Well, but again, at the time, it was permitted by code.
Permitted,
one.
yeah, but it wasn't probably not, in retrospect, probably not the best
Permitted, but not
decision. And
practical.
I understand how much elevators cost. I get that, but people expect that, even able-bodied people don't want to take the stairs, I can tell you that.
I think it's a deficit to this particular proposal, that there was not an elevator put in the building. And for people that are going to be having apartments, I can't imagine the amount of up and down the stairs people are going to be going to move their furniture in.
Well, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
it's no different than a second floor, a two-family house or three-family house, this is the second floor of, so there's no different. The only thing I have to tell you is this,
Mhm.
and I don't, all I can tell you is that what is being requested meets code compliance.
Mhm.
Now, your powers are within the zoning aspect of it.
Mhm.
When it comes to the issuance of a building permit, the building official will have to analyze this for the purpose of building compliance,
Mhm.
code compliance. And that's where this argument or this discussion really belongs, is with the building official that has to deal with the codes.
Mhm.
I don't think access to the second floor, handicap access to the second floor is a zoning issue,
Mhm.
not when it deals with this particular application.
Mhm.
That
I
may
see your
be-
point.
That may be technically correct, but you have a problem with renting it as is for office space, apparently for several years. And I wonder if the lack of an elevator has been an issue for that.
Mhm.
But again, we're talking about what took place. There's nothing we can do about what took place. It was permitted at the time. At the time were different economic times than they are today. And there's nothing that can be done now. The building is built. All of you that were, that are familiar with this area, that I brought in 12,000 tons of material to fill this site. The building is all on piles. So it was extremely expensive to build this building. It was built because I had made a commitment to some commercial space within the Canal Street development. And at the time, you know, it was designed and built to comply with the codes. And you know, the cost factors at the time were part of it. But again, the building is built. There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do about the fact that it's been on the market for 3 years and there has been no, there's no calls on it. There's no, you know, right now, aside from the fact that the office market is dead, you know, it's compounded by the fact that, you know, it's worse in the downtown area. So all I'm suggesting is this, and we can just keep on going around and around. I'm asking that you allow the 8-unit conversion. We know that based on the analysis that have been made, that the parking requirements have been met. And I ask that you allow the building official to go through and go through his review of the code compliance, and then I'll accommodate whatever compliance the building official deems it necessary. Now, one of the things that I have to tell you is my iPad battery is dying. So, I'm going to be off in a couple of minutes. So if there's any questions, I'll answer them.
I don't have any for Mr. Getz. Does any commissioner want to offer any comments, questions, or concerns to the applicant?
I'd just like to reiterate, when we originally approved this, it was based on, the fact that there was no elevator was based on code at that time, based on the size of the individual units that were being proposed for commercial use. So, that's what the code was at that time for that particular space. Now this is a new use. So I understand the concerns, but I just wanted to justify what we had approved back then. Did meet the code.
Yeah,
I understand that. I'm just thinking from a business decision perspective. I'm not meaning to fault the commission at all. Just saying that maybe it just turns out that it wasn't the best.
No, and I agree. I mean, there are other places downtown that do have upstairs. I'm thinking of there's a beauty salon or dance studios that are on the second floor. There's no elevators there, but there's also locations in Shelton that have added an elevator to the second floor to encourage rental of commercial space. So it goes on always.
No, and to be honest with you, if I found someone that wanted the second floor space, that was willing to pay the lease value to cover the costs, I would do that. Look, I have to make a special deal with the restaurant. They're in there at $10 a square foot. That hardly meets the obligations. But it was important that that they come in. So, but again, look, we can go over and over on this. All I'm suggesting to you is this: that and you have to look at it. It was built according to, as stated, the commission approved it, and approved it because obviously it complied with the codes. Otherwise, the building official, everybody else would not have issued the permits. But the building is built. There's nothing that can be done now. It will never have an elevator in there because it's just not engineering wise. It's not feasible. It's not economically feasible. So right now I can't afford to just keep this building vacant. And I'm saying to you that I'm getting sort of frustrated with keeping on discussing or talking about the same thing. But right now I need you to just leave it so that approve this on the condition that the building official review the building codes and to make sure that the apartments comply with the current codes. And then I'll deal with that. I don't know what else to say. It's just I need to have resolution to this.
We understand, Mr. Getz. Any comments from the public, Mr. Rossetti, that need to be acknowledged?
No, Chair.
No, nobody's in the waiting room or anything? Okay. All right, so if there are any other final comments, questions, or concerns from the commission or from the staff, is there a motion to close or continue the public hearing for application 2110?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion to close public hearing from Commissioner Laskos, seconded by Commissioner Kelly. So on a roll call to close the public hearing, Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Motion to close the public hearing passed 6-0, and staff will schedule this application for discussion at an upcoming meeting. Okay, final items on the agenda are under new business. The first is approval of the minutes for the September 14th, 2021 meeting. Does any commissioner have any comments or changes to the September 14th minutes? I personally do not.
Yeah, they looked okay to me.
Mhm. Okay, if nobody else has any comments about the September 14th minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the
September 14th.
Yep, September
Yeah.
14th minutes made by Commissioner Motto. Is there a second?
Commissioner
I-
Ticky, second.
Okay, Commissioner Tiki has seconded the motion to approve. So on the motion made by Commissioner Motto and seconded by Commissioner Tiki to approve the September 14th minutes, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins.
I will abstain. I was not present.
Right, okay. And the chair votes aye. Motion to approve the September 14th minutes have passed with the vote of 5-0 and 1. Second old business item is notation that the September 22nd minutes will be available on the website for review and on an upcoming meeting agenda for approval. And seeing that there's no other item on the agenda, I declare the meeting adjourned as of 7:52 p.m. Thank you,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night.